My name is Bex, and I live in Marin County, just north of San Francisco in California. My father was and still is a meditator. And when I was young, I'm the youngest of four. I have three older brothers. He would go off and meditate, and often he would go to Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts. And when he would sometimes go on day-longs or half-day-longs, because I was the youngest, I would go with him. And so I have a vivid memory when I was probably 4, and he took me into the big meditation hall, and the monks were there. I sat down on my meditation cushion with him, and he meditated, and I probably fell asleep. And then when I woke up, they were all still meditating, and I think I got up and silently walked through and found myself in the bowling alleys and watched how everybody was silent and going about their business. And I was always very talkative and very loud, so it was a different experience for me. And I think at that young age, I was so in the space that everything was just seeping in that it kind of got me. It just got me, and then I found running, and running got me into that same quiet space. And I played Division I field hockey, and my body started to have some issues. And I remember vividly walking down Church Street in Burlington, Vermont, and seeing Erich Schiffmann on a video of a beautiful white sand beach with Ally McGraw. And I wanted that VHS, and I bought it. And that was like one of the steps of the beginning for me in yoga. As somebody who came from a sports background, heavy running, tennis, skiing, basketball, to me, yoga was like this well where all the movements kind of felt refreshing and freeing in my body that was always going sort of rhythmically into a state, I would say, of meditation, of conscious movement, and then start-stop pacing. And so for me, the yoga practice in comparison, or I would say next to my athletics, it really helped me sort of come inward, get quiet, and see I could find what I found moving in the quiet. And in that like paradox, I could also find balance. So yoga for me provided me with a totally new platform for movement in a way that felt authentic. You know, the goal was just to breathe and be still, as opposed to getting a ball and a goal or finishing in a certain amount of time. And that's how it felt for me, and still continues to feel. I remember actually when I was in the 3rd grade watching Ripley's Believe It or Not, and there was a yogi on it putting legs behind the head. And I remember thinking, I want to do that, not knowing that it was a practice, thinking like you just did it. And then when I moved to San Francisco and I was taking yoga 2 times a week from this Iyengar teacher, and I was so blessed. There was only 3 of us in the class. So I got so much information from her that when I transitioned to a studio that was a little sweatier, a lot hotter, I grew that woman's business because I wanted to share yoga with all of my friends. She had this deal where if you got 3 people to sign up for a month, you got a month free. I think I had 6 months free because I would just bring my friends and I was like, you've got to try this. This is the best thing. And it made me so happy. It was like at the end of the day, where did I want to be? I wanted to be in a yoga studio. And so I wanted to share it with everyone. And that was just dipping my toe into the fountain of like, oh, not only do I want to share it, I want to learn all about it. And there's so much to know that it's just like oceans of knowledge. I came to start teaching because I had gotten laid off for the second time from a .com job that I was not super excited about. And the truth is I was doing The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and I was writing in my morning pages. And that might have actually been the first 2 chapters were the only chapters I read of that book, but they were the most valuable to me. And in my morning pages, I did the exercises and then I let it go, and I happened to get let go from a job, and I reflected on my morning pages, and the one thing that I kept circling is yoga makes me happy. Oh, I gotta go to my mat. And it kept showing up, and it was right there on the page in front of me. And so I just went on the internet and found whatever studio was doing a teacher training at that exact next whatever it was. And I called and they said, oh, we might be full, we'll let you know. And it turned up that not only was that teacher training in walking distance, but the bus that was right in front of my apartment, that route landed 1 block from the yoga studio. So it was like I was called not only to walk, but I could get on the bus and get there. And so from that moment, that month-long training just launched me into worlds of training and learning and unlearning and knowing what I have no idea, and just a long, deep love affair with yoga that I constantly desire. Why is it so hard to see what sometimes makes us happy? I think because our lenses get jaded at a certain point. I have 3 kids and I'm watching them, and I can see their joy, and then I can see when the lens kind of shifts. And I'm not sure if it is the lens of I see what someone else is doing and it seems, or it's hard because sometimes we don't want to believe the ease of finding happiness and joy. We want to think we got to dig deeper, you know. It's got to get dark before it gets light. And I think the practice, especially this year, is one of my real strong, I'd say, practices this year is to celebrate the small wins. And I share that with my students all the time. If it's Monday at 10:30 and you get to take a yoga class, that's a blessing, that's happiness, that's joy. And so I think it's just that maybe we compartmentalize and we believe that something packaged up is happiness, and it's right inside of us. Nobody can bring it to us but ourselves. That's how I feel. It's just like unwrapping the layers. And sometimes it's clear, and then other times it's really murky. So being a mama and a householder and having 3 kids and having my yoga roll, I always say my yoga mat is constantly being rolled out in front of me. You know, I might leave class and roll it up, but then I walk into my house and there's my yoga mat rolling out in front of me. And even if I'm super committed and I practice every day at 6 in the morning, if I walk into the house and I feel angry, then I've not only rolled the mat out, I've tightened the mat up, and I'm not practicing. And so the physical practice for me has helped support me in the household for a release, and then for an ability to be an observer when I'm rolling into the house, rolling out my mat, everybody's asleep, making breakfast and lunch, waking everyone up, being diligent about continuing to be compassionate and kind, and seeing that they might have just woken up and they didn't have their practice, and I have to meet them where they are. And I think that the best gift that I have is that I know the mat's there. And sometimes I joke with them when things are getting wild and crazy. I'm just going to take child's pose and let's see how everybody reacts. If I just take child's pose in the most hectic time of the day, will we all respond differently? And I would say, for me, the best part of the yoga and being in the home is that I can widen my perspective, and I can see that I just gotta take it in stride, and just like I meet my breath or the pose on the mat, I just have to meet each moment with them. And while we live in a culture where we believe multitasking is so great, the yoga keeps reminding me to listen when they're talking, to listen. And sometimes I'm not listening and they have to say, Mama, put the phone down, I'm talking to you. And most of the time I come into that house and those kids are my teachers. I have 3 little gurus that I bow to that I say, oh, you're right, I need to slow down. So it's a balance of all of it for me. Yeah, my yoga Sangha, my yoga kula, my community is really important to me. And I feel super blessed that yoga has brought me some of my most cherished lifelong friends. And I think there's no surprise that as we grow and we change, we have lifelong friends and we have friends that we meet and we're like, wow, I've known you for lifetimes. And I do feel like my sisterhood of women that I have in my yoga community and my sisterhood of moms that I have in that community are so sweet for me, because I did grow up in a household where it was just my mom and myself and we were dominated by guys, and it was very easy for me to know that way and to chill with the guys and be with the guys. And the benefit of my girlfriends is that it's super supported me in softening and being feminine and being able to share and understand that while we are not the same people, we swim in the same soup. And while I might be dealing with something that I think is magnificent or challenging, my girlfriend will come to me with the same thing, and I respect it and I honor it, and I feel so blessed to have the feedback and the support and the connection. My family, I grew up in Western Massachusetts in a small college town, Amherst, and my father is a psychologist, retired, and a professor at UMass, and my mom's social worker, so they both worked. And I think I was a very late bloomer and slightly awkward. I've always had this raspy voice. When I was 4 or 5, I vividly remember a woman coming up to me and saying I sounded like Lauren Bacall, and I had no idea who that was. And I think when you're 4 and you have a raspy voice, you have to kind of go with that. And so there was a personality there before I even knew it. And my mom is a super grounded, very comfortable in who she is, human being, and she's very patient. She is a yogi, and she does not do the physical practice. She came on a yoga retreat that I led, and she went to like half of one practice, and she sat in the back for most of it, and she just had the best time, and it had nothing to do with her ever having to roll the mat out. And my father was super into meditation for many reasons, and I think also to just calm and create more peace in his mind and his body that was spinning so many thoughts. And my mom wasn't for her. She wasn't going to go on meditation retreat. So I think seeing 2 sides of that and knowing that you can still be comfortable in that supported me, and my brothers were always my biggest fans. They were always telling me, you're doing great, you're so good at that. And I think I was really, I felt really supported, and I didn't even know during all of those teenage woes and the what ifs and the poor me's that was all like the rooting and the nourishing my roots for me to grow slow, steady, and figure out who I am. And I've been teaching for 15 years, and I'd say in those 15 years, I've been unspooling, unraveling who I am and going, oh, it's okay to be like that. It's okay. You're going to be all right. And my surroundings, my family was telling me that the whole time. I just maybe wasn't ready to listen. So over 4 years ago, when I went into the anatomy cadaver lab, a whole nother part of myself was inspired and amazed at how much this vehicle and the contents within are inner universe are amazing. And how that idea that I can't know everything there is to know about myself yet. And I know that studying anatomy has helped me embrace that more. I was just thinking actually this morning how I walked into a lab and I found a community and I found a wonderful amount of kindred spirits. And we came together to learn, and it was like we were learning about something that was in front of us, but we were learning about everything beyond that. And that actually space has been such a platform for me for acceptance and for deep gratitude about my body. And while I can nitpick or I can fall into those habits and those stories, whenever I have revisited that space in the lab and looked at anatomy, I'm not just looking at the bicep. I'm not just looking at the hamstrings. I'm appreciating this whole vessel that for now I'm just renting, and the only guarantee is I'm renting it. And I have no idea how long, and I think, and I feel so deeply that there are so many layers that I am exploring within myself through learning about something bigger than just this. What has me in its embrace? Beautiful words. I'm super inspired by reading beautiful words, listening to beautiful words. I often will play David White's CD over and over and over again and hear a different nuance of his tone or the words. Reading Mary Oliver, and then infusing that into the teaching and seeing that those words are just as powerful as telling someone where to put their foot and how to be aligned and what skillful action is. And I'm also really inspired by just being in the moment and going, okay, this is where I am. This is where I am. And I think I, for so long, was planning where I'm going or was looking back where I was. And I was just reading on my way here this great book, Don't Worry, Be Grumpy. And it's all these short stories, and one of the stories is about how, we put memories, we put photos in a photo album, and we look at them, and then we put it away. And if we could do that with our mind and look at a memory and then put it away, and not loop the same story over and over again, how profound would it be? How much would it support honestly being in the moment? Because that story, that unpacking of that story, might not emotionally get lodged in a layer in your body, in your hips, or it might not be the one thing that just keeps you off of your path. There are so many teachers that I am so grateful for. And I would have to say the top 3 teachers that I'm super grateful for are, well, there's probably 4. The woman Barbara who taught me Iyengar, and there was Tuesday, Thursday mornings at 6 a.m. and there was just a few of us. And then my first teacher trainer, Larry Schultz, and his ability to be authentic and to be truthful and to be happy being him and teaching in that way was a blessing. And of course, Erich Schiffmann and his ability to be the free form, to think of something bigger, to get online, or the traffic helicopter, just that love, that big lion love heart that he embodies. And Dharma Mitra, the way that he is in his being and his essence, his kindness and his true desire to be on a yogic path. Those would be my top 4. And yet, everyone I meet has something that inspires me and that I end up threading and weaving into the teaching and the practice for myself. The biggest invitation for coming back to the mat or craving the practice is, to me, to always have fresh eyes and a beginner's mind, right? And being committed to the practice means showing up for yourself, rolling your mat out when you can't make it to class, or when you show up and it's not who you think it's going to be, knowing that everybody has something to teach you. And so to keeping inspired on the mat, to just know, like, if every time you could roll it out and go, I have never practiced on this day at this time, what magic am I going to receive? What's going to happen? And to stay in that space of not knowing and living the question of, okay, what's going to happen? I think that that's the best sort of suggestion, is that every practice is an opportunity for you to learn something about yourself and to release something, and an opportunity to just love yourself a little bit more. Thank you.